Hunter x Hunter Chapter 405 is here, so you already know what time it is. Strap in and spoilers beware. So the chapter begins and we find ourselves in a casino, a very high-class casino because everyone in here is dressed to the nines. And we pick up at a card table with someone gambling and they're saying, "Hit me. Hit me again." And surrounding this person are a bunch of other people watching them gamble. Two of these people is an elderly couple, and the old woman says, "Wait, I thought poker was played with 5 cards." And we can see here that this gentleman has 6. And her husband responds, "Yeah, it's 5 cards in SQX because there are multiple decks used. However, this is SQ3. And just as an aside, I myself am not familiar with this poker terminology. I don't know if it's like a specific form of poker in Japan or if I'm just out of the loop. So y'all let me know in the comments." But the old man continues and says, "In SQ3, you can stack the same cards and your bet exponentially increases with each one. However, you're not allowed to fold. That's why this is commonly referred to as going to heaven, because for better or worse, you'll find yourself ascending." We then see the gambler say, "Call." And it's at this point that we see that this is Hisoka. And it's revealed that this is chapter 405, titled Masquerade. And the editor's note says, amidst the succession war, he plays a solo game. We then see Hisoka get up from the gambling table and basically walk all around the casino. And as he's walking around, he's thinking to himself. He's thinking, "I'm perfectly vanilla. My heart remained tame and unmoving when I heard about the assault on the Chimera ants because they were just ants after all. Same with all of those rumblings around the ship. I instantly cooled off when I found out that it was a group ability powered by a nin beast awakened in a ritual. Because I'm vanilla. Group play or animal kinks do nothing for me. All I want is to ravage a partner one-on-one." He continues, "It's sad, but oh well. In the meantime, I don't mind playing just by myself." And this is Hisoka basically lamenting the fact that he hasn't had a good fight in a while and explaining why he wasn't interested in the ants, because they weren't actually humans, and why he's not interested in, Hulkenberg's ability in those big rumblings, because it's multiple people. Hisoka just likes the thrill of one-on-one battle. We then shift perspectives to behind Hisoka, and we realize that somebody is spying on him and watching him. And the person watching him also looks like Hisoka. So I know this might get confusing, but I'm going to use this artwork for the imposter Hisoka. And we see that this person thinks to themselves and says, "Wow, running into him in the casino's VIP section, what are the odds? But wait a minute, what if he's also an imposter Hisoka?" We then cut to a flashback of Benolanov, the mummy guy from the Phantom Troop, and Chrollo walking around like a shopping mall public area of the Black Whale, and they're having a discussion. And if you'll recall, the last time we saw these guys together was in chapter 377, which is when the Phantom Troop split up to all go their separate ways to search for Hisoka. Benolanov and Shizuku came up to Chrollo and were like, "Hey, our abilities are not a good matchup for Hisoka, so can we work with you?" And Chrollo says, "Yes, but I'm going to be the one to take out Hisoka." And they're like, "Of course, that's fine. You just come up with a plan and tell us what to do." And Benolanov says, "I can use my ability to transform into other people." So now, picking up in this flashback, we see Benolanov say, "You want me to transform into Hisoka?" And Chrollo says, "Yes, I want you to roam around the places that the Mafia frequent. It's a free ticket to a fancier room." And Benolanov says, "Wait, well, why?" And Chrollo says, "In order to maintain balance." They see Hisoka and us as wildcards, so letting us roam around their territory affects their reputation, but officially taking a side could cause a conflict that would disrupt the Kakin Mafia's balance. The solution is to monitor Hisoka and draw him away from us. It's easier than controlling an entire group's movements. And Benolanov says, "Oh, okay, I see. If the Mafia believes that they've isolated Hisoka somewhere, then they no longer have to worry about us wandering around and bumping into him." And Chrollo says, "Yep. That way, the Mafia can save face while we search for the real Hisoka." Chrollo continues and says, "But what the Mafia might do is act like a promoter that wants to extend an invitation to a Heaven's Arena floor master like Hisoka. So it's very likely that the real Hisoka has already made contact with one of them and gotten an invitation to Tier 1 as a VIP. So, if one of the Mafia members invites you to the upper tier, be very careful not to run into him." We then cut back to Benolanov disguised as Hisoka walking down a hallway, and he thinks to himself, well, the boss was right, but the fact that he didn't bring this up at our meeting tells me he wants to handle this himself. He then thinks back to the last thing Chrollo said to him, which was, if you see Hisoka, turn into someone else and wait for me. I'm going to be the one to fight him. And Benolanov thinks to himself, yeah, you don't have to tell me twice. I am a bad matchup for Hisoka. I'm basically a sitting duck for his gum while I'm transforming. We then see Benolanov step into a nearby bathroom and transform once more, out of his Hisoka appearance and into just like a random, casino looking guy that's wearing like a funky Hawaiian shirt and some sunglasses. And we get some exposition from the narrator about this ability. It's called Metamorphose. It's an ability that allows Benolanov to transform into someone he's spoken with. He can maintain this appearance for roughly as long as he's spent face to face with that person. There's no size limit to the transformation, but Benolanov believes that the shorter the target is compared to himself, the shorter the amount of time he can maintain the transformation. After he finishes his transformation, he thinks to himself that that mind-reading lady blew my identity, so I had to kill her. However, I needed that IV drip dude to lead me up, so he's okay, but what if they find her body? They're not going to blame Hisoka, right? So just as a refresher, who Benolanov is referring to here is Lynch and Zakuro. Lynch is the mind reader girl because she's the one who can punch you and basically gets an answer from your subconscious. And then the IV guy is the guy who can control his blood. They both work for the GU family. So if you'll recall, we saw the two of them bump into Hisoka back in chapter 392, except now we know it wasn't Hisoka, it was actually Benolanov. And this is the page as it was in 392. As you can see, we don't actually get to see the question or answer from Lynch's punch in that chapter. However, in chapter 405, we now flash back to this moment from Benolanov's perspective. So we see him walking down the hallway and Lynch walking up to him saying, "Are you Hisoka?" and then punching him. And we see that his subconscious voice that answers that question, based on her ability, is that, no, I'm an imposter actually, disguised as Hisoka. Then Benolanov is like, wait, what the hell was that? Was that my voice right now? And so he immediately knocks her out. And he goes, damn, I've been found out. That guy with the IV drip probably heard me as well. But then we see Zakuro say, are you Hisoka? And so Benolanov thinks to himself, I guess he didn't hear me. So maybe only the user and the targets hear the subconscious voice. This next part's slightly confusing, so bear with me here. The scene immediately transitions to seeing Zakuro knocked unconscious, and Benolanov has now transformed to look like Zakuro. He then walks over to Lynch, who is unconscious because Benolanov knocked her out, and kind of wakes her up and says, hey, are you okay? That guy said he was Hisoka, didn't he? And Lynch says, no, he's not Hisoka. He's a fake. My ability told me. He was trying to deceive us. He must be Hei Lee or a troop member. Either way, we can't let this slide. Inform Henry immediately. We got to rip him to pieces. And Benolanov, disguised as Zakuro, says, oh, I see. That's too bad. So what Benolanov was doing there was trying to determine just how much Lynch knew and if he had to take her out or not. And unfortunately, she knew too much, so he did have to take her out. We then flash back to Benolanov in the present, still disguised as Hawaiian shirt sunglasses guy, and he's recounting this situation to himself. So he says, I then had to disguise myself as the woman that I killed, and then I tricked the IV guy once he came back to consciousness into going to the theater with me. So everything should be fine, right? Because from his perspective, her death shouldn't seem linked to her altercation with me. And if all goes well, they'll think she was killed after they parted ways. But even if I'm wrong, surely the Mafia wouldn't gather their forces and march up to Tier 1 just to kill Hisoka, right? Right? I don't know. I could just ask the boss, but I'd like Finks and the others to be the ones to handle Hisoka. We all know how much Shalnark and Cordopi's death affected the boss, and he knows we know, which is why he tries to act all nonchalant. We're caught in a vicious cycle. We then transition to a panel of Chrollo's Nin book as Benolanov continues. He says, it's obvious the boss wants to settle this with his own hands, and that the treasure he came here to steal was a page for his book. One that will ensure Hisoka stays dead this time. That's why everyone else in the troop wants to get to Hisoka first, before the boss kills him for good. Chrollo, I know why you left the number 9 spot vacant. Once Hisoka's dealt with, let's put an end to this masquerade. All right, we got to pause for a second because there is a lot to unpack there. So, we now know that Chrollo's original intent for coming on the Black Whale was because there was a Nin ability that he wanted to steal here. And now he wants to use that ability to help ensure that he can kill Hisoka for good. But that's not just like a he's strong and it's good thing, because we know all of the rest of the Phantom Troop members want to find Hisoka first so that Chrollo doesn't do this. So, what does that imply about this ability, right? Because none of the rest of the Phantom Troop members should really care about Hisoka, so I don't think that's what it's related to. It must be some sort of like self-sacrifice play, but if not like a full-on Chrollo will also die, then maybe he just like loses a big part of himself in whatever manner we want to take that to mean, right? So, very, very interesting. What is this ability that he came to get, and how does it help ensure that Hisoka will stay dead for good? Because, I mean, the fact that Hisoka even came back the first time was a huge surprise, right? But can he just continuously use Postmortem Nin to pump his heart and lungs every time? That doesn't seem like it should be that big of a barrier to potentially overcome. So I'm just so curious about what this ability is and what he's planning to do. I mean, it clearly has all of the rest of them really nervous. So this just makes this whole situation that much more compelling, right? Plus the whole mention of Benolanov knowing why Chrollo has kept the number 9 spot vacant will end this masquerade after we take out Hisoka. Just a lot to think about here. Definitely let me know y'all's thoughts down in the comments on this. The scene then transitions to a news broadcast which features this man's face on it, and the announcer says it's been 10 years since the brutal killing of the Mama Help Foundation's chairman, Mr. Lisnorth, who was dedicated to providing aid to underprivileged children, yet his killer is still at large. Reflecting back on his achievements, we found a renewed sense of admiration for the late Mr. Lisnorth, as well as a call to action for the authorities to apprehend the despicable culprit responsible for his murder. We then pan out from this news broadcast and we see Chrollo walking alone in this like shopping area of the mall. There are also a bunch of other random people around who are reacting to this news broadcast. One guy says, "Wasn't this the case in which the initial report contained a bunch of misinformation which caused them to keep making new reports fixing it?" And another person randomly says, "This must spell trouble for them if they actually caught the guy." A third person says, "This is all shady as hell." Meanwhile, Chrollo thinks to himself, a philanthropist meeting an untimely end. That's hilarious. Funny how some sheep blindly accept what they see in the media. Okay, so this is incredibly interesting. Mr. Lisnorth, the guy the news broadcast is about, is actually one of the people responsible for kidnapping and murdering Sarasa, Chrollo's childhood friend, the one that was basically responsible for Chrollo going dark and creating the Phantom Troop and having all of his plans for Meteor City and all of that. So they found him and killed him 10 years ago. Now, whether or not he's like the head of the pyramid insofar as like when it comes to responsibility for Sarasa, I don't know. Chrollo may still be searching for like the true culprit, but at the very least, we know he got this guy. We then cut to a room that has Tai Zhao in it, who is the vice boss of the Char R Mafia family, Kenny Wang in it, who is the underboss of the Char R family, and then also Nobunaga, Finks, and Feitan. So we pick up with the 5 of them having a conversation. Tajao looks to Nobunaga and says, "Is there something you'd like to confirm?" And Nobunaga says, "Yeah, you guys in the GU have been dealing with the Hei Li for a while, right?" And Tajao says, "Well, no." And Kenny says, "The Hei Li actually got a new boss recently." And Nobunaga says, "Oh, I see. Then it's hard for you to anticipate what the other side is thinking." And Kenny says, "Yeah, pretty much." And Nobunaga says, "And it would also be hard for you to notice they were no longer operating as a mafia family then, right?" And Kenny says, "Wait, what? What are you getting at?" And Nobunaga says, "Exactly what I said. Can this group aboard this ship really be called the Hei Li? What are your thoughts on that?" And Kenny looks to Ta Zhao, who says, "Well, it's an interesting idea, but if they aren't the real Hei Li, then who are they?" And Kenny says, "Yeah, we were at the formal succession ceremony with our boss, and maybe their old boss was actually manipulated by a Nin ability which induced a deadly illness." And Fink says, "What kind of person is the current boss?" And Kenny says, "A young woman named Morena. She's descended from the royal family, but not eligible for succession. It's a Kakin tradition to name a royal with no right to the throne as the boss of each mafia family. So she's a known entity, but like you said, we don't know her well enough to understand her true intentions." In short, officially speaking, they are the Heilie, but their real goal remains a mystery. But why? Did you guys discover something? And Nobunaga says, well, it's nothing too concrete, but I figured out something by fighting them. At first glance, it looks like they just do as they please. I mean, the guy in the wall was basically asking to get killed. But when we infiltrated their hideout, their actions seemed coordinated, as if they had specific orders. It seems like they operate more or less the same way we do. Their boss sets the strategy, and then they individually decide on specific tasks. So the two questions are, A, for what purpose are they doing this? And B, what orders are they actually following? If their goal is to take down the other families, then I'd understand killing mafia members. But then why are they killing seemingly unrelated passengers? And Kinney says, who knows? Maybe their purpose is something else. And Nobunaga says, exactly. The Heilie are on track to destroy everything. And Tajao says, everything? And Nobunaga says, yes, everyone aboard the ship, including the royals. In other words, Kakin itself. There may be multiple purposes here. That said, a setting like this passenger ship is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for them. Nobunaga then continues and says, I'm guessing that in order to gain the strength they need to destroy everything, they have to kill people to acquire power. And Finks adds, using sacrifices to obtain supernatural powers is a tried and true formula. You guys know about vows and limitations, right? And then Feitan chimes in and says they want to kill everyone anyway, so they make the number of people killed the condition to produce powerful nin. And Tajao says, I'm in no position to talk, but that's pretty messed up. And Fink says, yeah, it's pretty deranged for sure. Tajao then says, I'm not talking about the Heilie. You guys are just as bad for coming up with the idea. Our organization was twisted from the get-go, but we still take pride in supporting Kakin from the shadows by maintaining the balance. Conflict is always a last resort, mainly used as a deterrent, and we see civilians as customers, not targets. But I get it now. They present themselves at the Heilie, but inside they are something else entirely. They're completely different from the Kakin Mafia. Tajao then gets up from his desk and goes and opens the heavy, bolted door behind his desk, which, if you recall, is one that they promised they would show the Phantom Troop if they started working together. And this is essentially a secret passage that connects the lower tiers to the upper tiers. So he's basically saying, you guys can use this now. And he says, the Char R and GU families will support you fully. Crush the Heilie for us. And Nobunaga says, well, we'll go on ahead then. And Fink says, inform Henry and the rest of the troop for us. And Kinney says, our young ones will go fetch them. But he then thinks to himself, what will you do now? This isn't looking good for you, Morena. These guys are likely to reach you sooner than expected. The game's only just begun, but you may have to play your Joker already. And then speak of the devil, we seen transition to Morena herself, head of the Heilie family, and she's speaking with Dogman. She says, it seems like a funeral procession is going to be held for Hulkenberg. There's going to be a large crowd, so this will be the perfect opportunity. Are you up for it? And Dogman says, yes, thanks to everyone's cooperation, I have leveled up a ton. I can smell a person's nin type within a 5-meter radius, and how proficient they are within a 2-meter radius. And if I get close enough to sniff their head, I can identify them 100%. I will definitely find them. And we then realize that he is now level 62 and he's an enhancement type. And if you'll recall, I'm not going to get into the full weeds on it here, but Morena's nin ability is essentially the ability to imbue others with a kiss into this leveling system game where you gain experience by killing people, and as you level up, the stronger you get, unlocking your own nin ability along the way. We then kind of zoom out from this Morena Dogman conversation and see that there are actually a bunch of other Heilie people in this room with them. And Morena says, if our dog successfully finds the person we're looking for, that's going to be our starting signal. It's going to be the beginning of the end. And she's really excited about this. So Billy chimes in and says, oh yeah, I am getting pumped. But Gelato says, I'm a bit skeptical about our chances of convincing the target to join us once they hear about our goal. The odds are pretty slim, don't you think? And Morena says, yes, you're absolutely right. So let's do our best to ensure that they don't say no. And Gelato says, let's do this. And Dogman looks to Sodom, who is this gentleman here, and he says, let's go, Sodom. Once I find the target, how should I let you know? And Sodom says, well, I'll be next to you, so just lightly point at them and I'll do the rest. Because my kidnapping ability requires my target to not know Nin. I can bring them in even by myself if I need to. And Dogman says, well, all right. And Vacante then says, Morena, where did everyone else go? And she says, they're leveling up in the processing room. Looks like they really want revenge on Henry from the GU. We then transition to this processing room, which is basically just a killing room, if you'll recall, where members of the GU sit in there and kill people as they're lured in order to level up. And we see 3 people in there, and I'm probably going to butcher the name pronunciations here, so forgive me. But we have Deverales, Q-Roll, and Damon, and the 3 of them are just standing around saying, wow, it's just like Morena said. And he goes, yeah, level 51 is dope. It's time for a mafia hunt. Let's go. We then cut back to Finks, Nobunaga, and Feitan, who are being led down this secret passage by Tajao. And as they reach the other side and Tajao begins to open the door, he says, all right, from here on out, things may get a bit intense. And then Finks and Nobunaga immediately say, what the hell? What is this? And whatever they're looking at through the open door. And that's where the chapter ends. Again, chapter 405. And we do have an editor's note that says, Hisoka and the spiders make their moves. What sight awaits Nobunaga and the others? The succession war rages on. Hell of a freaking chapter, man. It just keeps getting better. I don't know how Tagashi is doing it. Every chapter is so compelling. And even though we swapped away from the interesting stuff going on with Kurapika and the Succession War, we are right smack dab in the middle of equally interesting things going on with the Phantom Troop and Hisoka and the Mafia. And it's just going to be so crazy when all of these things come crashing together at some point. And Hisoka vs. Chrollo round 2 incoming. I literally just put out a video like 12 hours ago detailing their first fight, and the timing on that is so coincidental, but check that out if you need a refresher or a breakdown of how that battle actually went, and I cannot wait to see a potential round 2 if we get that, because I mean we now know the rest of the Phantom Troop is extremely motivated to get to Hisoka first because they don't want Chrollo to do whatever he's planning to do with that ability he wants to steal. There are just so many interesting things to think about. Morena's got a plan she's cooking up. They're trying to find somebody that's not a Nin user, but somebody they want to recruit and align with. So I'm very curious who that might be and why are they so potentially useful if they're not even a Nin user, right? So much to think about, but as is the drill, I'm going to end this video here and we'll be making separate videos throughout the week about certain stuff happening in this chapter. So please let me know what you'd like to see me talk about, and also just let me know your thoughts on this chapter. But as always, thank you guys so much for watching.